If you are a high level leader, I bet inner child work is something that you do not regularly do. Now, you may have done it, you may conceptualize it, you may talk about it, you may be like, oh yeah, my inner child. And yet your control comes up, your rigidity comes up. You have a lot of protective defenses against sweet little you because it feels vulnerable. And especially those of us who are high level leaders, it feels really scary to access and maintain a relationship with our inner child. And we have a lot of shame when that defensiveness comes up, or the seeking validation, or the needing to know, or all of the different ways that she comes up. Or like if someone says something and like you should respond a certain way, right? And so you do consciously respond that way, but yet your body has this little subtle activation and you maybe repress it or you deny it or you ignore it, and then you have inflammation, PCOS, endometriosis. Maybe you have something like a scarier health issue. Your skin may have issues, and it all is because your inner child is needing to be attuned to. We will often reach for spiritual practices like the Akashic Records, tarot readings, ritual, instead of attuning to our inner child, instead of processing the trauma that is the activation behind our triggers. And you may know your triggers, you may be aware of them, you may be able to control when you're triggered and be like, oh, I don't need to feel that. I know what this is. That doesn't mean you've actually processed it. Hello! Welcome to YAROK Academy of Healing, Expanding, Spiritually Transforming, and Mastering Energetics. I am your host, YAROK, leadership mentor, nervous system genius, clinically trained therapist, spiritual teacher, and all around energetic sorceress, which means I am a master of energetics. I suss out all of the sneaky, subtle energetics. I am a master at recognizing your unconscious and putting words to your unconscious. Like I can literally feel your unconscious and put words to it. It is a massive superpower. And as I've been reflecting on my latest series of programs called Magnetism Sex Power, which includes Inner Child Healing the ROK Way, Daddy Wounds, Magnetic Muse, and the Juicy Nectarine, I've been really looking at the way that we relate to inner child healing. Because so many, especially high level leaders, are like, oh, I've done that, or I've really attuned to little me, or I take her on dates, or yeah, I know that. But there are so many layers of activation that we have from childhood because we have so many defenses that kept us safe. So that perfectionism, needing to have your house perfect, needing to look perfect, needing your relationship to be perceived as perfect, needing to always show up and have said or done the perfect thing, right? Like if something's happening that's out of your control, like, oh, I need to clean this up, I need this to go away, I need this to be better. Or maybe you are veiled in a cloak of like beauty. You're veiled in a cloak of beauty. You have all these beautiful rituals, you have this deep spiritual practice, you talk about tarot reading, you talk about all the witchy things, and yet if someone says something that makes you defensive, you repress it and then you want to avoid them. These are all signs that you have an activated inner child. Maybe you're seeking saving in your dating life, or you're projecting and avoiding dating because you don't want to access those triggers. All signs that you have an activated inner child. We don't like to do inner child healing because here's the thing, inner child healing is uncomfortable as fuck. It's super painful when you access those deep parts of you that have been neglected, that have been avoided, that have been denied, that have been bullied, that have been criticized or judged or not held. I've had experiences with Tiny Yarrow, I call her, that have left me crying in such deep cathartic ways that it feels so shameful to be in relationship with someone else crying that way. And when I say in relationship, I mean this happens with my equine therapist, this happens with my vocal coach, this happens with my deepest friendships. Like little Yarrow, we will access these layers of her that I don't even know are there, and all of a sudden I'm just like crying so hard that I like feel like I'm convulsing, and it doesn't feel comfortable because I have it together, right? I'm under control. I am a healer. I do this work. And then when I access these deeper layers, these deeper levels, it feels, first of all, really vulnerable and raw. And I feel really seen, and I feel really contracted and like I just want to hide. But every time I access Tiny Yarrow in that at that level, I'm set free even more, free to just be, free to be in pleasure, free to expand, free to be seen, feel free to show up in a new way. Tiny you will run your life, quite literally. Like, excuse me, will just run your life all over the place. And you won't even know it's happening. It's that subtle activation in a business meeting. It's when you feel like you have to be the martyr because you have to fix everything, or you feel like you have to have everything under control, or you feel like you need to be needed because you're the one who gets it all done. Or your husband doesn't do the dishes and you're like irritable all day and you're making it mean something. Like so many different ways that this shows up. She shows up in the grocery store when someone actually accidentally bumps into you and you think, oh, I should be too good. I should be better than this. I don't need to be upset about this. Or you get massively triggered and you find yourself like bawling in the parking lot. This is all little you. Little you shows up when you're watching your numbers on likes on Instagram, or if someone commented on your post, or if someone responded to your message, or if you didn't receive a text back quickly enough, you start to make it mean something about you. Now, high level leaders will really try to control this. We will be like, nope, I shouldn't feel that way. And then you're shooting on yourself, and then you're going to have shame about your actual feelings, and you're repress your actual feelings. You're not going to process your actual feelings. And then it's going to turn into dis-ease in mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. It could be anxiety, it could be depression, it could be a physical symptom like I listed earlier, it could be a disruption in your relationships, like disconnection, it could be an inability to be present and vulnerable and look someone else in the eye. There are so many different ways that this shows up. And being able to actually acknowledge that, access your inner child. Little Yarrow lives right here, so that's why I bring my hands to here. Access your inner child. Be with her, hold her, love her, attune to her or him. And just take a breath with that, because then you create this calm in your body and then you become neutral. You're not activated. You're not taking things personally. You're not getting defensive, and you're not shooting on yourself and avoiding your emotions. We are emotional beings. We are meant to have emotions. All of us, literally every single one of us, every human on this planet, we are meant to have emotions. And when you are avoiding them, denying them, repressing them, shutting them down, not actually accessing them, not allowing yourself to really feel and process them through, if you're holding on and you have rigidity and control, and it could be sneaky and it could be subtle, but it is there. If you're not accessing the depths of your being and connected to your sexual energy, which is healing energy, you are repressing yourself. And your inner child is an archetype for all of your trauma, your spiritual trauma, your childhood trauma, your karmic trauma, your generational trauma, your ancestral trauma. And when you neglect that, you're holding all of this stagnant energy and pain in your body. And so when we actually attune to our inner child, and I don't just mean play with your inner child, I mean attune to your inner child, like hold her, love her, see her, give her a safe space to be, or him. When you don't do that, that gets repressed in your body. And then you continue to have these coping mechanisms, these layers of defenses through which you're operating. And it represses all facets of your aliveness, of your joy, of your vitality, of your excitement, because you can't access that when you're avoiding that kind of pain. And that pain is too big for a child to feel. And so then you're functioning through the defenses, your inner child is underneath the defenses, and then you can't actually access effervescent joy. And so the path to that is to attune to your inner child. You have to first soften the defenses. Your nervous system has to feel safe enough for you to soften the defenses so you can access your inner child, so you can attune to your inner child so that you can show up in the world. And if you're reaching for your spiritual practices rather than attuning to your inner child, you're doing yourself a great disservice. And I did this for a lot of years. I didn't even know inner child healing was a thing. And I kind of poo-pooed it. It's like, oh, whatever. I roll at it, right? I was like, I've downloaded Enlightenment on DS4 Brave. I don't need to do inner child healing. Meanwhile, I was judging, comparing, seeking validation. I was activated. I was obsessing. I was ruminating. And once I attuned to Tiny Yarrow and like got through my defenses to attune to your Tiny Yarrow, the defenses went away. And then I deepened my spiritual practices so that they can actually integrate like a golden radiant light through my being. Like my highest self and I have a beautiful relationship. I'm not grasping onto these things. I'm not manically manifesting, writing things down 1,000 times and they're not coming true. I'm like connected, tapped in, synchronicities happen in my life like like a beautiful golden flower of life, like a web. It's so exciting in all areas, in my business, in my career, in my love life, in my relationships, in my friendships. I have the deepest, most powerful, most potent friendships I've ever had in my life. I have such beautiful relationships. I can't even tell you. And prior to attuning to Tiny Yarrow, there was so much activation and it was subtle and it was sneaky. And I had been doing healing work for a really long time. I'd been on a spiritual journey for a really long time. I'd done acupuncture, therapy, plant medicine. I had done I had my master's in counseling and depth psychology before I even started doing inner child healing. I'd done all the things, literally all the things. I was an avid yoga practitioner. Like, we're not talking like, oh, I did it sometimes. It was like 5 to 7 days a week, 2 to 3 hours a day, sometimes 5 hours a day. I was teaching yoga. I was doing Reiki healing. I was meditating every day. Like, I was in it from the time I was 19, because that's when I downloaded Enlightenment on the Dance Floor of a Rave. I was 19, got to this point where I accessed Tiny Yarrow and everything started to shift. And it was like I could integrate all of the practices I had been doing. And now, when I do the practices, they embody at such a deeper level because I'm not avoiding any of these parts of me that feel really scary to go into. We really will avoid inner child healing. And I say this again, even if you know that you need to do it or you've done a little bit of it, she is sneaky and she will come in, or he, at any turn and will wreak havoc on your life. You have to be creating a daily practice with your inner child, a daily relationship. It's a relationship. And as you create that relationship with your inner child, she starts to integrate, or he, and you come into deeper wholeness, and then everything feels more vibrant. So this is my reminder to you to do inner child healing, no matter how much of it you think you've done. No, how many, excuse me, no matter how many times you're like, no, I already did it, or I know it. Knowing is not the same as embodying. Knowing is not the same as embodying. And we are very intellectual creatures. Our brain feels very safe. And when you get into your body and you start to access the many layers of deep pain that is in there, it's not going to feel comfortable. You're not going to want to do it. And you're going to kind of subtly pull out. Your body's not going to let you fully drop in and fully develop as deep as a relationship as you need to develop with your inner child in order for you to actually not be triggered the way you once were, not obsess, ruminate, or feel like you need to control and have things be perfect. That control's a big one. It's like a subtle avoidance of actually deepening in. And I want you to feel free, like through all of your cells of your being. And so often I see high level leaders and somebody will point something out and they intellectually will be like, yes, I know that this is true, but you can feel the activation, right? And so there's a disconnect between what they're saying and what the energy is in their body. And this could be happening to you. It happens with my clients all the time. I know it's happened with me because I used to know a lot of things that I hadn't embodied. Inner child healing was never one of them because I was like pushed into it and was like, wow, that's powerful and profound. However, what I will say, there are times when the obsessing will come up or the judgment will come up, and I have to be conscious enough to soften, to access Tiny Yarrow, to be with her so that those defenses go away and I can process whatever emotion I'm feeling, whether it be shame, pain, anger, or sadness, or fear. Could be fear as well. So the way through this is to get honest about when your inner child is activated, no matter if your ego's pissed about it and doesn't want to admit it because it feels ego dystonic, which means it feels like, oh, I shouldn't be feeling this way because I'm too good to be feeling this way, or I've done inner child healing and I already know, oh yeah, my inner child. But we often will neglect our inner child, even when we know, especially when we know, especially if we're high level leaders, and our activation will show up in these weird ways. Sometimes it'll show up in the way that we view politics or the way we view the opposite sex. Like I saw this post the other day, and it was this woman who was like, men will be at the gym with their girlfriend and they're still looking around at all the other women like they're at a buffet. And I was like, I don't know. I think there's a lot happening within this post that we could look at, we could break apart. They could be nervous, they could be looking at other men, they could be like, there's so much that could be going on within this. Also, a lot of this is our insecurities and our activated inner children on both sides. And some of you watching this, especially women, might be like, but that's gross that the men are doing that. I'm like, but is it? Let's talk about this. Women are beautiful. I admire other women. And when we are so deeply insecure that we're not able to let someone else look at someone else, what's happening within us? Like, the reason there is so much disloyalty in this world is because people feel repressed and they don't feel able to actually come together and be connected and have open conversations. And also, people force themselves into relationships that they shouldn't be in. This is a whole other YouTube video that I need to do. We are disconnected from ourselves. And it starts with that activated inner child and so much unprocessed trauma and so much lack of consciousness and so much fear and grasping and holding on and making people wrong instead of actually teaching them how to come home to themselves, feel confident and powerful and magnetic. And also, our relationship with sex is so fucked up. Like, we have so much shame around it, so much conditioning around it. I did a whole live on this on Instagram the other day. This is also a whole other YouTube video, and I have a series of programs right now called Magnetism Sex Power. It's 4 live calls. It's the programs I mentioned before, inner child healing, the ROK way, daddy wounds, magnetic muse, and the juicy nectarine. Like, we have to process our shame around sex, because when we have that shame around sex, we actually create disconnection in our partnerships. So we don't know what's happening with these people who are going to the gym together. They could have a totally disconnected sexual relationship because when we get into intimacy with other people, it's hard to be seen. So, like, when you get into a relationship with someone initially and it's like all fun and you're like super free, and then all of a sudden you get into commitment and it's like, oh, well, I can't have sex with them that way anymore. Or we can't have sex in the middle of the day. Or, oh, I'm tired. Oh, I have a headache. That is your intimacy issues. And it's your fear of actually being free. And when you process your trauma, coded into your nervous system, you attune to your inner child, all of that starts to shift. So, if this is something that resonates with you, join us in Magnetism Sex Power. You can send me a message on Instagram. You can send me a carrier pigeon. You can leave a comment below. It is 555 for all the programs and all the live calls. We have 4 live calls in the month of November. Price goes up to $666 on Wednesday, the 5th. And yeah, I'm super excited about it. Your inner child is a relationship. The more you attune to your inner child, the more you create that relationship, the more neutral you become, the more juicy and lit up and alive and connected and expansive and free, because you stop taking shit personally, because it's not personal. It's not personal. And you start to develop this anchored in power and confidence and radiance and magnetism, that you stop being so insecure about everything and judging everything and comparing to everything and being reactive to everything. And you actually start to have a more comprehensive, expanded consciousness around the world, meaning of the world and of who we are as humans, our dark, our light, our raw, our ugly. Because if really in relationship, you're able to actually talk about the fantasies that go on in your brain without the other person getting reactive, imagine what kind of relationship we would have. But we're all coming from these activated inner child places. And we don't think we can have these conversations. And then we're masking it with all of these spiritual practices like we're so enlightened. But meanwhile, we're activated as fuck on the inside. All right, let's shift this. Let's do some inner child healing.